All right. It is again August the 4th, and it's primary election day then in the state of Washington, and the day when voters here are narrowing down fields of candidates for local, state, and federal contests ahead of the November election. We have that top two primary. You're probably familiar with that by now. Doesn't matter your party affiliation, the top two vote getters will advance. The rest are out until next time. And all Washington House seats are up, 98 House seats, and then 2 dozen of our Senate seats are up. So there's a lot on the ballot. And there are open seats as well where incumbents are not seeking re-election. A couple of other interesting contests we've been covering where incumbents are being challenged by those in their own party. So, Republican Party Chair Jim Walsh of Aberdeen, again, in an interview this morning, told me he's a little discouraged to see turnout as low as it is thus far, but based on what he saw 4 years ago, which is the fairest comparison for what turnout will be, he thinks ultimately turnout's probably going to be okay, maybe even slightly up from where it was in 2022.
Sure. I mean, and I sympathize with those who want to vote on election day. For a long time, that was how I did it. I always felt election day is election day. We ought to vote on election day. Lately, having been in the sausage factory for a while, I've begun to see the importance of getting your ballot in earlier, at least a few days earlier. Uh, but I understand. I sympathize with those who want to vote on election day. I get it. What we tend to see with very late ballots is they amplify how a district trends anyway. So red districts tend to get a little redder with the late ballots, and blue districts tend to get a little bluer with the late ballots. So that's the phenomenon we've seen for a long time. The other phenomenon we've seen for a long time is the overall decline in voter participation. One of the reasons that Washington embraced 100% vote by mail was to increase voter turnout. And that has not happened in the 20 odd years since we've started doing 100% vote by mail. We've seen a steady decline in voter participation. And that's not on one side or the other. That's not one party or the other. That's across the board. Voter participation is declining in Washington state, and we have to fight that. Now, traditionally, the I-5 corridor has higher voter turnout than other parts of the state. And that has given the edge to some of the more progressive candidates that have come forward in Washington state because the more progressive precincts have higher voter turnout. And so, as someone who is on the other side of the spectrum politically from that, I'm doing everything I can to remind people in the districts away from the I-5 corridor that they do have a voice. If we could get our voter turnout numbers up outside of the corridor, we would restore more balance politically to the Washington state government, local governments, and our federal delegation.
So overall, in the August 2022 primary, we had 40.43% of Washington voters who took part. So just more than 4 out of 10 registered voters who took part. So little discouraging that voter turnout isn't better, but it is summer. Our primary in early August. Walsh and even others on the left are not necessarily fans of kind of bad timing. People are out of town, not paying attention, not in their regular routines for news consumption. And so maybe that ballot's just been sitting there on the counter for a couple of weeks and won't get turned in. The Republican National Committee, though, paying close attention to a race that we're going to be covering tonight. We're going to have some late night coverage for the Center Square primary results. One of those is in District 3. That is where Congresswoman Marie Gluesenkamp Perez is, according to the Republican National Committee, potentially vulnerable. And we have Senate Minority Leader John Braun of Centralia as the challenger. Both of them likely to move on, but the results of how that kind of shakes out tonight for primary numbers could be very telling for how things will fare in November and whether or not Republicans can get that seat back. It's a purple district. They're hoping to get it back. It's, again, as I mentioned, one of the ones that the RNC has paid attention to. So we are following closely for you this evening. And another one to watch is Central Washington's 4th Congressional District, and I'll be covering that tonight as well. That's the one where Representative Dan Newhouse is stepping aside, and that opened up the floodgates to 11 different hopefuls in that contest. So, again, as of late last night, that's the latest numbers we have from the Secretary of State, just under 20% of ballots had been returned statewide. Election officials recommend if you are just today getting your ballot turned in, you should make sure to take that to a ballot drop box. I put up an article that is on our Center Square Washington page today that has a direct link to where all of those are. So no matter where you live, you can just get on there and, plug in your community, your zip code. It'll tell you the closest drop box to you. Otherwise, if you know where your county elections office is, or if there's a voting center in your community, those are open as well until 8 o'clock this evening. So it's advised just to make sure it counts at this point to, get it in that way just to be certain. And the first results on Tuesday night are coming in just after 8 o'clock. We'll be reporting on those. And Secretary of State has to have all of the results certified by August the 21st. So that's a wrap on today's episode of Washington in Focus Daily for this Tuesday, primary election day in the state of Washington. Get your ballots in if you can. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again tomorrow.